Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. I'm reading some insights from Puja Swami Chinmayananda. This act of self-revelation is undertaken and performed by the Lord, the Self, who ever abides in the heart of his very devotees. This kindly act of revealing the Self is undertaken in a spirit of compassion. In fact, towards itself. When I am tired of walking, I sit on the roadside in my pilgrimage out of compassion for myself. The highest vocation in life is self-development, leading to self-realization. Please reflect on that the highest vocation, the highest profession, the highest purpose is self-development that is directed to self-realization. Not success, not position, but self-realization. Meaningful Mornings is a community, is a workshop, is a mirror to encourage us to raise our self-standard. The standards you have for yourself, your day, your life. And that demands shifting your investment of resources and time and effort into your SQ, your spiritual quotient or your self quotient. Getting to know who you are. And that's why in the language of the Upanishads, what we're experiencing is Brahma Vidya, remembering that we are infinite. In the language of the Bible, know thyself. That is what we're exerting towards. On Monday, in our seeking culture and parenting culture space, I was explaining to everyone the meaning of Arjava. Arjava in English means authenticity. The name Arjuna does come from Arjava. How does one practice authenticity in terms of communicating to another about a difficult subject? The subjects I was describing were miscarriages, mental illness, death. The one who's authentic communicates a reality based on how the receiver can handle that. If you're speaking to a more mature person, you can offer more of that reality. If you're speaking to a more immature person, you have to offer less of that reality. In all cases, though, whatever you're communicating, you should push the boundary, the understanding, a little bit. It's a way of encouraging them to be more mature. Now, connecting this to what we're experiencing right now. Those who are great, look out for. They seek the company of others who are great. Why do they do this? Because they know this will help them to grow. Prince Arjuna is a beautiful expression of this. When he had a choice between choosing Sri Krishna and Sri Krishna's army, he knew Sri Krishna's army is great, but greater is Sri Krishna. That's why Sri Krishna is his charioteer. Now, Sri Krishna is an icon of authenticity. His name is Achyuta, the one who never falls. He never loses himself. And he is directing Prince Arjuna to the great in creation, in terms of scriptures, in terms of nature. But then he's holding his face and saying, look closer. Amongst the great, there is the greatest. And he's sharing that I am the greatest. Asmi, Aham, and so on. This is not new because the whole chapter began like this. Shri Krishna shared, Prabhavam, I am the source of the rishis, of the devas, and so on. So even if he points out, as an example, that amongst the Vedas, Sama Veda is the greatest, the notion is, yes, tune out of the Veda and tune into the Sama Veda, but push. Tune out of the Sama Veda and tune into what is the source of the Sama Veda. That's Sri Krishna. Please make sure you're clear about why all of this is being shared. If the vision is clear, the mission, as in these verses, will become more clear. In the last verse, Sri Krishna talks about him being the Sama Veda. Though I shared we have 4 volumes of Vedas, we actually have 5. Does anyone know what the 5th Veda is? Please share in the chat. Bhagavad Gita, sure, but specifically the Mahabharata. So we are studying the Veda, whether Sama Veda or Mahabharata. Shri Krishna shares he is Indra. For those in our Bhagavata class, there's not a lot of greatness about Indra that's shared in Bhagavata, but one portion is great. When there's the churning of the Milky Ocean, and so many amazing materials are coming out of this ocean, out of this effort, Indra does follow Bhagavan Narayana's directions. When Bhagavan Narayana says, give this, Indra does. When Bhagavan Narayana says, keep this, Indra does. If we want to go from great to greatest, following the greatest is a methodology. Also shared is, Shri Krishna is the mind. Prince Arjuna wants to use his eyes to see Sri Krishna, but his eyes are going to become weaker. All of our senses are going to become weaker. And that's why it's important to mentally revolve around such teachings, around this presence. That way, even if you can't see it, you can still feel it. And finally, he shares, I am intelligence, specifically, I am human. What a compliment. Sri Krishna is sharing he is you and you and you and me. In our culture, the 11th samskara, the 11th rite of passage, is where you start to wear a sacred thread. How many of you have this by show of hands? We tend to make this ritualistic, that you have to be a certain gender or a certain age to be able to have this invested upon yourself. But the implication of this sacred thread is that it cuts your body in half. Those who are immature, they keep living for their genital organ and stomach. Those who are seekers, they live to nurture their heart and their head. Do you need to wear a thread to remind you of that? So, if you want to be like Sri Krishna, intelligence as a human, invest in being more large-hearted and more reflective-minded. We continue, verse 23. Rudranam Shankarashchasmi Vittesho Yaksha Rakshasam Vasunam Pavakaschasmi Meru Shikarinam Aham. Rudranam, amongst the Rudras, Asmi, I am, Shankara. There are descriptions of different Rudras, which are really forms of Bhagavan Shiva, and the greatest form is that of Shankara. Now, these are very philosophical words. Here's what they mean. Rudra comes from Ru Dravayati. Ru means sorrow. Dravayati is that which melts away or flows away. So Rudra, or Bhagavan Shiva, is the one who helps our sorrow to flow away. And amongst the greatest is Shankara. The etymology of this word is Sham Karoti iti Shankara. Sham means auspiciousness or egolessness. Karoti means the one who can encourage us to be egoless. So this understanding is very clear. Obviously, the one who has less ego is greater. And with no ego, they're the greatest. Yaksha Rakshasam, amongst the Yakshas and Rakshasas, the greatest is Kubera. Kubera is culturally known to be the treasurer of heaven. Now, some really awesome insights about this. The semi-gods are often described to be the most beautiful, the most handsome. They don't get old. They don't smell. All of these details are shared. But Kubera is known to be the ugliest. I'll read to you. Please listen carefully, reflect on this. It is interesting to note how the Indian rishis were typically against capitalism and how they cartooned the master of wealth in such a grotesque caricature, so ugly that it cannot bring about even an indulgent smile on our lips. Sharing a thought on capitalism with everyone. Capitalism essentially is a practice in a free market. This is ideal if it's implemented in an ideal way. As we observe society, we all agree that every human has equal potential. We all have the potential to be enlightened, but it would be a lie to say that we all have equal opportunity. That's not true. Healthy food, good schools, that's not available to all. See how this free market, it's a dream. If this is implemented in a pure way, yes. But our rishis know that we humans are unable to implement this in a fair way. And right now that's super amplified in the COP conference. the nations that are affected by global warming the most are the ones who don't cause it. So yes, every country has equal potential to be free, and they are free, but equal opportunity, that's a lie. And that's why this notion of Kubera being ugly is shared. I will share more tomorrow, specifically about how Schmiegel becomes Gollum. Yes? Vasunam Pavakaha Asmi. Amongst the Vasus, or seasons, I am Pavaka, which means fire. What's cool about this is earlier Sri Krishna highlighted the sun in terms of light. Here he's highlighting fire in terms of heat. Our seasons, they tend to revolve around the sun in terms of heat. Yes? Everyone's looking a little bit sadder because it's becoming colder for us. Heat is going away. And finally, Shikarinam, which means amongst the mountains, those with a sharp point, I am Meru. Meru is a theological mountain that symbolizes the center of the multiverse, the center of creation. Meru is not on earth. Okay? That's why I said theological. How we can relate to this, I had read that Meru is our spinal cord. On the top of Meru is where Bhagwan lives. On the bottom of Meru is where creation is. On the top of us, in our head, in our mind, is divinity. On the bottom is the body that goes about doing this and that. Okay? We'll reflect more. From inspiration to application. A recent application was for you to organize your notes, because the more organized your notes are, the more they'll impact you. Just in 3 mornings, 3 verses, we've gone through 12 ways to look at creation. There's many more to come. I was reading Vasavi from Seattle's methodology of organizing, and I like it. For those who are trying to figure out how to organize your notes, copy hers. Then, your recent application from yesterday was to memorize this verse. How many of you have done so? Very good. Yesterday, our older son Vyasa told me that they were listening to Pearl Jam in class. I felt very good about the decision I've made about what school he should go to. There's an awesome song by Pearl Jam called Wish List. And one of the lines in this song is, I wish I was the little phrase that you depended on. This verse is that little phrase. Whenever you feel confused about your purpose or who you are, remember this verse. Here is your application for this morning. Tomorrow is our 400th verse of Bhagavad Gita. And so I'm asking you to pray for all related to meaningful mornings. Pray for you, pray for me, pray for all, because we need blessings to continue. We've made it to 400, we need to continue to 700. Pray for all associated with meaningful mornings. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be joy.